Hey guys, this is our first attempt at history notes long distance, so please bear with me. I'm hopeful that all this will work as planned, but worst case scenario, if I have to try a different method, I totally will. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with World War I. And you may be noticing that there is a tiny bit of lag between when I am voicing that I am writing these things and when they actually show up on your screen. I understand that this may throw some of you off, but this is just sort of the nature of the beast that we have right now, okay? So I'm going to ask that you be patient with that, and I will try to go slowly so that the lag does not seem so jarring, okay? All right, so World War I, otherwise known as the Great War. Well, why didn't we call it World War I when it was happening? Well, obviously because we didn't realize there would be a World War II. We thought this was the war to end all wars. This was going to be the worst it was ever going to be. And so we simply called it the Great War. Great as in not awesome, but terrible and a big deal and not something we really wanted to do again. So let's talk about, first off, let's talk what they were fighting about. Why did this war even happen? What was going on? Okay. And so there are 5 main causes. All right. We're going to remember them using an acronym of MANIA. All right. So that first M here is militaries. Militaries. Okay. So what are we talking about when we say they fought it over militaries? Well, obviously they fought it with their militaries, right? But the big thing here was, I'm going to change colors real quick. The big thing here was we had an arms race going on, okay? And when I say an arms race, obviously I don't mean a race with literal arms or to see whose arm is the fastest. What I mean is military sort of equipment, okay? Weaponry, stuff like that. So it was kind of a race of who had the bigger, better weapons and who could develop it first and so on and so forth. So obviously tensions were pretty high since we had everybody rushing to make the biggest and best weapon. Okay, so that was one of the big causes of the Great War. This first A here is actually going to be alliances. Well, why did we fight a war based on alliances? Oops. I'm doodling other places. Why did we fight a war because of that? Okay, so if you'll remember in class a while ago, we had maps where different countries were, the territory was redrawn around this time. And so we had, let me see if I can, I'll make my cursor just a little bit smaller, see if I can fit some more in next to this. Okay, so we had the triple, sorry, that looks a little special, I'm sure, alliance. Okay, the triple alliance, that was Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. Okay, so they were all right there together and they formed the triple alliance, and then they were against the triple entente. Okay, E-N-T-E-N-T-E, entente. Okay, now that is a French word That means understanding or agreement. So basically they're saying we're forming this alliance because all three of us kind of think the same thing. Okay? That's pretty much what that means. So we have the Triple Alliance who wants to push Germany's agenda, and then we have the Triple Entente, Britain, France, and Russia, who have no desire to see that spread. So that's where the war actually started, was between those two factions. Okay? Now, our N. Our N here is Nash. Oh, I didn't change my color. Y'all know that's going to bug me. Okay, let me see if I can go back. Here we go. Wait, that's still the eraser. Oh my goodness, you guys. There we go. Nationalism. Nationalism. Okay, so what does that mean? What's nationalism? Well, we talked about this a little bit in regard to U.S. nationalism, but in this particular instance, it's these individual countries that are trapped kind of in this hostile situation, still being invigorated with that sense of patriotism, and they wanted to prove themselves as world powers. They wanted, especially Germany, really thought that they had a good plan of government. They thought that they really could take over and rule well, and then Germany could be this mighty nation. And they were sort of all having that feeling of country pride in their country and patriotism, and such so that they decided, this sort of kind of fueled the flames, if you would, that they decided to act based on these feelings of nationalism. Oh, and not to mention, if you'll remember those maps, that we had all these different ethnic groups that were in Austria-Hungary, and they wanted to go ahead and carve out their own parts of the nation. Remember, because the Germans were sort of spread all through, but the rest of them were sort of keeping to themselves, and they were sort of hoping to establish their own nation as they had to exit from their homelands. All right, let's talk about I. I is imperialism. Imperialism. Remember, we've just talked about that in regards to the U.S. Imperialism is the feeling of a nation that they should spread beyond their borders, and they should take control of other lands and be the sole ruling government over it. Now, this is not U.S. imperialism. Specifically, this is happening in Africa, and so it's a bit of a power struggle between the British colonies and French colonies and some of these other areas. Okay, there was a lot of colonization going on in Africa and in the surrounding area, and basically tensions just fed into the tensions of imperialism, just fed into the Great War. All right, and then this last one here, this one was the big deal. You ready for this? This is a long word. Assassination. Assassination. All right. Whoa, hold on just a second. Y'all know what assassination means. It means someone was killed. So let's talk about that. Who was killed? Let's see if I can. Okay. Cross your fingers, guys. We're going to see if this works. Oh, it does. How amazing. Okay. So, assassination. All right. Well, this is where things get really tricky. Okay. Is because this kind of sets the fire to the powder keg, I guess, is how you might say. This actually kind of kicked off the whole World War I period of time that we talk about, way before the U.S. even got involved. This was really the start to the official war. All right, so on June 28th, 1914. Oh, I'm doodling. all over the bottom of this board. On June 28th, we have this guy who is named Gavrilo, I believe is how you might say it, potentially. Princip. Okay. He is a Serbian nationalist, which means that he's full of that patriotic pride for the realm of Serbia. Millions of Slavic people who were living in that sort of Austro-Hungarian mishmash of all the different ethnic cultures, they really would rather have been part of Serbia. And so this guy decides that he is going to take matters into his own hands, and so he assassinates. Oh, where's the rest of my teeth? There it is. Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Oh, if I could spell, you guys, that would be awesome. Okay, Ferdinand and his wife Sophia. Okay, and these guys, he took them out because they were going to lead the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He did not want to be a part of that anymore. He wanted to be part of Serbia. So he thinks, okay, if I take out the leader of this country, of which I no longer desire to be a part, then perhaps we can get free and we can be part of Serbia like we want to. Unfortunately for him, as soon as that happens, the next thing we have is July 28th, so a month later, okay? And now Austria declares war. On, where's the rest of that? On Serbia, okay? So, whereas he thought he would separate Austria and Serbia if he took out the leader of Austria-Hungary, he actually ended up causing this humongous conflict. Okay, so here we have World War I now is kicked off officially. It is officially started. Now, what happens when the powder keg blows up? What happens when all of this starts? Well, everybody is defending their allies, right? So this is between Austria, who is in the alliance, okay, and Serbia, who is supported by Russia, who is in the Triple Entente, okay? So this is, it's kind of, unfortunately, a game of he said, she said, well, they said this about my friend, and they said this about my friend, and blah, blah, blah. It kind of ends up being that everybody else sorts of sticks their nose in because they want to defend their allies, and then the situation kind of grows out of control. So let's talk about, I'm going to see if I can shrink my cursor a little bit again. And let's see if we can talk about exactly who was fighting for who. Okay? Germany. How do I keep writing on the bottom part? Germany allied with Austria-Hungary. There we go. Against Russia. who fought for Serbia. Okay, so they were there because Serbia was under threat. So they declared, okay, well, we're not just going to help them fight Russia. I mean, help them fight Serbia. We're going to help them fight you too, Russia. Germany also declared war against France. Because they were there because they were a Russian ally. So, okay, so Germany, again, teamed up with Austria-Hungary and says, okay, you guys are trying to fight with Serbia, which means I'm also going to fight Russia, who is on their side, and then I'm also going to fight France, who's on Russia's side, okay? This is getting a little bit complicated, but please try to follow along. Okay, and then Germany invaded Belgium. Okay, and Belgium, oops, Belgium was neutral at this point, and it was situated between Germany and France. So they were on their way to France. They went through Belgium, and supposedly a neutral country. However, Britain, at this point, decided, hey, we don't like you coming through Belgium. We don't want you to think you can do that. So now we're joining the fight as well. Okay? So, at this point, we've reached nearly to August 1914. All right? And at this point, we have fully developed not just alliance and entente, but now it has expanded. Okay, so we have turned into the Central Powers. Remember, Germany and Italy and Austria-Hungary end up being kind of in the middle of all of this. So they are referred to as the Central Powers. And then the Entente becomes the Allied Powers or the Allies. Okay, and they are sort of surrounding these guys, which obviously does not bode well for the Central Powers. But now it has fully expanded over the time from June to August. So it went it has expanded really fast. So here everything is heating up at this point, and they're really starting to get involved. We've got lots and lots of border conflict and people invading other countries and stuff like that. But the U.S. Specifically, President Wilson, you guys remember him? Yeah, so President Wilson actually wanted to make sure that, and this is Woodrow Wilson, by the way, he wanted to make sure that he followed George Washington's advice of neutrality, okay? So, let's write this down. President, ooh, what is that? It was supposed to be an SI, but it's like it all kind of globbed together on me. President Woodrow Wilson wanted to maintain neutrality, you know, staying out of the conflict and, you know, being neutral, being between both sides, not picking a side and stuff like that. But the reason that he wanted to maintain neutrality was actually to maintain trade with both the Central Powers and, oh no, come back. And the Allies. Okay, now, does that really sound like staying out of the war? Because it doesn't really to me. But anyways, this is how he was determined to follow George Washington's advice. This is how he thought he could stay neutral if he just, you know, traded with both of them and didn't pick a side and didn't get into the fight. Okay, now, Germany, being situated as they were in the center of basically everybody who was upset with them, they were basically fighting a war on two fronts. Okay? So if Germany is here, okay, obviously the country is not shaped like a circle, but if Germany is here, they're fighting Russia on this side, and France and England both on this other side. So this is not a great position to be in if you're fighting a battle, because you're having to split your troops between both sides. Okay? So they thought if they could just advance on France and knock them out, that they could go back to focusing on Russia. But if you'll remember, between France and Germany, let me switch colors here, between France and Germany, that is where you find Belgium. Okay, now the Belgian army, instead of being able to knock France out quickly, the Belgian, skipping letters, y'all. The Belgian army held out for 3 years. Okay, so they thought that they would come through and just real quick go in, knock France off the map, make sure that they were no longer a threat, and then move forward and focus all of their troops just on dealing with Russia. But the little Belgian army that could basically showed up and said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that. I misread that. Hold on one second. Don't let me lie to y'all. All right. The Belgian army held out for 3 weeks. I'm making stuff up, y'all. I'm sorry. All right. So for 3 weeks. So instead of just being able to just knock France off the map, they actually now have all of this time to prepare. Okay. France and England now are like, oh no, Germany's coming. We need to get our stuff together. And so they actually have time. The Belgian army was able to buy them this time. And it ended up being the reason that Germany didn't go any farther than they did. Now, when they came across and finally did make it through Belgium and were trying to get into France, the French and the British were working together, which obviously, you know, more numbers. Oh, that's supposed to be my and symbol, y'all. French and British stopped Germany at the Marne River. Okay, that's Marne. They stopped Germany at the Marne River, and that's near Paris. Okay, so, you know, Eiffel Tower, all that. So they were able to completely stop them, turn them back. So that was a win there for the Allies. And that was officially called the First Battle of the Marne, September 6th through 12th, 1914. Again, the war just started in August. The war officially kicked off. War was officially declared. Now we're still just in September. This is a lot of stuff happening really, really fast. Okay? One of the big things that happened at this first Battle of the Marne is that people were starting to realize on both sides, hey, it's not going to be easy to just, bump somebody off the map. It's not going to be easy to just, stop one of our other competitors from being a problem. And so they knew that they had to make different plans. They knew that they had to make some changes if they hoped to be any degree of successful. Listen to me. Successful. So this is when we see trench warfare. Okay, you guys know what warfare means. Okay, that means the actual act of declaring, fighting a war, etc. Okay, so when we have these trenches here, the reason that would be different was because they actually would dig out, and bear with me, I'm about to draw. I know you guys enjoy my drawing so much. All right, so they would actually dig out this trench, and then this would be the battlefield going out this way, and they would be able to actually hide full dudes in this. This is an army helmet. Don't laugh. I know you're laughing. I know you're laughing. Don't laugh. Anyways, all right. So they would actually hide these guys down in the trenches. Okay. They would stay in these trenches and hide and wait for strategic times, as opposed to previously we had talked about in things like the Revolutionary War and those sorts of conflicts. They would actually all line up, and then the first line would take a shot, and then they would kneel, and then they'd all reload, and then the other side's first line would take the shot, and then they would kneel, and then the second side, and we had all these rules and stuff like that. Well, these guys would sit in the trenches, and this portion out here, once you got a certain distance away from where the enemy lines, quote unquote, were, this was called no man's land. Okay, so land that didn't belong to anybody. It belonged to no man. So this was no longer a German controlled area or a French controlled area. This was no man's land where the armies actually met up and did their fighting. Okay, so as you can imagine, this particular type of war did not move very quickly. As a matter of fact, they spent a lot of time in a condition called stalemate. I'm sure you guys know what that means. Stalemate meaning neither side can make a move. It's also referred to as an impasse. Okay? There's nothing to do. Nobody can pass. Nobody can go. Nobody can move, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So this sort of changed the entire thing. This sort of changed the entire notion of warfare up to this point. Okay? So now what do we have to do? We've got these stalemates that are happening, and obviously we don't want to just sit in the trenches forever, so what are we going to do? All right, so now we're jumping forward a little bit. Now that things have slowed down, now in 1916, okay, we're jumping forward. Allied and Central Powers. Okay, so both sides. Oh, powers. Hold on. What am I doing? Powers. Okay, I can't get the S on there. Powers. So the Allied and Central Powers, they were focused on the Western Front. Okay. Now, if I go back a couple of pages, the Western Front here is looking the Western Front, as you're looking here, is sorry guys, hold on, it's going a little nuts on me. Whee. Okay, so we've got the Western Front here, and we've got the Eastern Front here. Okay, so we're looking at the Western Front. So we're focusing, the Allied and Central Powers are focused on the Western Front. That's France and England. Okay, and they were like, okay, we've been in a stalemate. We're going to break this out. We've got to do something to move past this impasse. So February, Germans incited Battle of Verdun, and then in July, the Allies incited Battle of the Somme. Okay? And this was what happened. Oh, sorry. It's lagging a lot. Battle of the Somme. There we go. Okay, so both of these were caused heavy casualties, or a high number of casualties. Okay, and this was, again, they were trying to, casualty. I'm gonna fix that. Hold on. Ooh, that's scribbling. Where's my eraser? Here we go. Here we go. All right. Casualties. Okay, Casualties. That is an S. Casualties. Okay. They're tired of being stuck. So the Germans pick a fight, and then a couple months later, the Allies pick a fight, and they end up killing a lot of people. But it does, in fact, break the impasse. So, I mean, I guess they got what they wanted. But nothing is ever good when it ends up with lots and lots of people dead. So, as they're trying to break these stalemates, as they're trying to move forward past these impasses, they end up having to, again, sort of revolutionize their thinking. They're using new methods. They're using new weapons and stuff like that. So, they're using, for one thing, they're using machine guns. I'm sure you guys all have a frame of reference as to what those are. And also artillery. Okay, now this word artillery can be used a couple of different ways. But here, what we're talking about is what we would refer to as like, I guess the best way to say it is like nowadays we would call it anti-aircraft or, okay, come on, artillery. Woo, okay. So we would call it like anti-aircraft, these big, heavy guns that are not guns that you carry. You know, they're mounted to something, or they roll in, and because we're about to talk about tanks, and stuff like that. So these big, heavy guns, that were not simple handheld things. Okay, so this is one of the big developments here. Obviously that changed a lot of things, going from just handheld weapons to going to machine guns, automated, rapid fire, and artillery. These big heavy guns, and big rounds. I mean, it's obviously completely and totally different. Okay. They also had started using poison gas. Okay. So nerve gases and things like that, things that could not only incapacitate you, but also, excuse me, also completely kill you. Again, that really changes the face of warfare when you bring something like that in. It became a lot more lethal, a lot more quickly, and this is a very fast escalation for all of this stuff. Submarines had not really. Oh my goodness, what is that? Hold on, we're gonna try that again. All right, star SUBMARINES. Submarines. Submarines had been used before. There's even evidence of submarines that were tested out and used somewhat, even as far back as the Civil War. But at this point was when they really became widespread. And as a matter of fact, the Germans literally called them Unterseeboots. And so that literally just means under the sea, Untersee, undersea boats. And that's why later on we started just calling them U-boats if they were a German submarine. That's World War II, but we'll get there. But yeah, okay, so submarines really became a huge determining factor during the course of World War I. All right, 1916, we have tanks, armored tanks, okay? Just like you would think of a tank. And that was Britain, actually, that brought them in. So the Germans were really known for the submarines, and the British for, ooh, what? Whoa, what's happening? Germans? Did that all go? Yes, okay, Germans were known for submarines. The British were known for their tanks. Also, now we have the ability to use airplanes in warfare. So we start having the idea of dog fights, where planes would be spiraling in the air and trying to shoot one another down and all this sort of thing. And as a matter of fact, if you guys are familiar at all with the name the Red Baron, either from history or even just from Peanuts cartoons, this is who Snoopy pretends to be anytime he's flying his doghouse around. He was the most famous German flying ace during this time, And so he ended up shooting down a lot of the Allied soldiers. And the most famous American ace was Eddie Rickenbacker, is what my um, book says right here. Okay, so for right now, this is all we're going to do as far as notes go, okay? The next thing that I want you to do is I want you guys to go to your resources in Google Classroom. There are questions that I want you to answer. I'm going to see if I can get this recording to show you guys exactly what I want you to do. Let me see. Where's my cursor? Here it is. All right. So here, you guys are familiar with this. You come here and you say open resource, and it will open it in a new tab for you. When it does this, what I want you guys to do is file, make a copy. Okay, make a copy. And I don't want you to do anything else to it except for when you make a copy at the first part, I want you to put your name in all caps, okay? And I want you in your drive, I want you guys to find, hold on, I want you guys to find the Gamma History folder, okay? In Classroom, you guys will have a Gamma History folder. It is shared with all of you. Okay, as a matter of fact, on my recording, you can actually see where we were working on the annexation of Hawaii. It got saved into the history folder. And so if you guys will save a copy with your name, again, right here at the front, all caps, very obvious for me to see. And if you will save it in Gamma History in your classroom folder in Drive, and so once you do that, once you are able to do that, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. Gamma History. Okay. Once it opens up my copy, let me see if I can get this to load. Okay. So once I have this copy here, it's going to want you to type in here definitions. Okay, as you can see, I'm able to actually type in the document now because it is, again, my copy with my name on it that is saved in the correct place. Okay, so I'm going to leave this document in there so that when you see it and when you see my name on it, you'll know that you're in the right place. But what I want you to do, this is 3 pages. I want you to go through. I want you to answer the questions. I want you to type your answers to the analysis questions. Up there with the analysis questions, there's a video clip. It's only 3.5 minutes. And if you will answer those 8 questions based on that video clip, and then this will be your work for the day. This is your assignment. Now this has gone a lot longer than I intended it to. Hopefully I will estimate my time better and I won't have to obviously explain all the things every single time. So this should hopefully be the longest video of this type. Again, thank you for being patient with me as we figure this out. And yeah, so if you can just save your answers, save your copy, and then go back onto the assignment in Gamma History. And if you'll just comment on the assignment and say that you're done, finished, submitted, whatever sort of word you want to do, that way I can go in and assign a quote-unquote grade or mark off that you finished it, however Google Classroom wants me to do that. All right. Thank you guys so much for being patient. Please, 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 I have given you this in a rewindable, reusable format because I want you to have the ability to stop, take a break, come back. I want you to have the ability to listen more than one time if you need to. So please, please, please take advantage of that. And as always, if you have any questions, concerns, anything at all, you guys know how to reach me. You've got my email address. You can get me on Hangouts. You can get your parentals to, or your guardian angels to get in touch with me, okay? So, as always, if you need help, ask for help. I'm here, and I hope you guys have a great and wonderful day.